Hi guys, I'm Mark and today I'm going to be unboxing the Sony A7R III and the 24-70mm G Master lens and giving you my first impressions. So I'm coming to the Sony A7R III from the Canon 80D, so this is my first full-frame mirrorless camera, and to be honest, I have no idea what to expect, but I guess when I think about it, I'm actually expecting quite a lot. But in terms of build quality, ease of use, functionality, this is all going to be totally new to me, so let's dive right in and see what's in the box.
Surely was a good sign, despite of everything I saw. It's slowing down time, changing all the laws. Try to catch it with my hands, so that I can take it home. Hoping I can keep it when I'm dead, when we go. Try to catch it with my
So while you're watching me unbox this, I'm just going to give you my first impressions of the camera, and man, this thing is compact, seriously. I now see why so many people add little extra grips to extend the size of the body, especially if you might have larger hands, but for me, the size is perfect. I don't feel like I'm going to need to add anything to increase the size of the body, even despite having the rather weighty 24-70mm G Master lens attached. So the compact size and lighter weight means I'm much more likely to take this out and about with me, because I'm actually someone whose main use of this camera will be at home. So that's a nice little bonus already. So what about the build quality on first impressions? Well, for me, coming from a camera at a much lower price point, the jump in build quality is just insane. The magnesium alloy body feels cold to the touch, just emphasizing that this is not one big enormous hunk of plastic like I'm used to. It feels very high end, and the build quality is every bit on par with the performance of the A7R III. All the buttons are incredibly responsive, and navigating the camera actually felt very familiar despite having never used a Sony mirrorless camera before. I'm actually very used to changing the shutter speed, aperture and ISO using the touch screen on my 80D. That's just how I got used to it. That was my first DSLR. Yet I was able to pick this thing up and begin using it without having to watch a million tutorial videos on YouTube or read the instructions or anything sensible like that. I must admit that the way the touchscreen pulls out feels a little bit fragile and makes me feel a little bit nervous, but that may just be my experience from the past when using this type of screen mechanism talking. Because in my experience, they're much easier to break, and the constant movement over the years can affect its functionality. It can become a little bit loose, but only time will tell, I guess. Sadly, there is no way you can angle the screen so that you can see the screen when you're in front of the camera, which would be really handy for what I'm doing right now. But to be honest, I'm just grateful there's any movement in the touchscreen whatsoever, because I looked at some other options like the Canon 5D and there is zero movement in the touchscreen at all. So I'm just grateful that there is something that I can do with it. Having looked at the menu screens, 90% of it is actually pretty self-explanatory. And I say this because I had heard that navigating the menus on Sony cameras can be pretty convoluted and complicated. And whilst there is a lot of preferences to navigate on this camera, after 10 minutes of familiarizing myself with them and just going through them, I had no problem finding exactly what I needed. And if I ever needed to change something, I pretty much remembered where it was. I absolutely love the digital viewfinder, which is something I've never had the pleasure of using before, and it was useful right out of the box. It not only helps you get a true representation of what your photo will look like before you press the shutter button, but it's also a great way to review the photos that you have taken, zoom in on them, and check that they're fully in focus. And you can do this so quickly and in real time, in between you taking photos while you're busy doing something without worrying that the situation's completely changed. So that's my first impressions of the Sony A7R III. It's exceeded my expectations, and my expectations were pretty high, so far so good. So on to unboxing the 24-70mm G Master lens.
Catch it with my hand. Try to hold and make it stay. Then that's the way. Try to catch it with my. Catch it with my. Try to catch it with my. Catch it with my. Catch it with my. Sometimes fast and sometimes slow. They are falling to the ground. Dance around circles.
It's awesome. Here's my first impressions. I was again totally blown away by the build quality. All of my previous lenses again have felt very plasticky. That's definitely not something that you can say here. The barrel of the lens strays away from the smooth finish of yesterday and is textured to complement the body and finish of the A7R III. Aesthetically, they look like they were made for each other, and just looking at them together is pretty damn satisfying, let's just say that. The rubberized zoom and focus rings are ribbed to provide more than adequate grip, and they're also incredibly smooth to use. The sound of this lens focusing is also so non-existent and silent that I wasn't even sure that it was working properly when I first tried it out. My old lens used to make this sort of like sound, and going from that to this is literally like night and day. Now, it is a heavy lens and a physically large one to hold, which does make it feel a little bit off balance when you attach it to the A7R III, but although the size and the weight of the lens don't necessarily complement the compact and light aesthetics of the A7R III, once you take a look at that image quality, you will happily carry this lens anywhere with you and be happy to do so. So that's my first impressions of the A7R III and the 24-70mm G Master lens in 2019. I know I'm a little late to this party, they've been out a while, but I had to wait until it was the right time for me to upgrade. I'm now interested in experimenting with 4K video in the future, and this just ticks all of the boxes. So thanks for watching my unboxing and first impressions of the Sony A7R III and my lens as well. Please give it a thumbs up if you found it useful. Do you guys have any questions about the A7R III or the lens? Would you like me to do any more videos on it? Let me know by leaving a comment below. I'm certainly not an expert or a professional photographer, maybe a semi-professional one at best. Oh, and don't forget to give me a follow on Instagram by going up here if you like seeing photos of London. Hopefully some photos that I've taken on this camera in the future as well. Or you just want a heads up when my next video is going to go live, so head over there to do that. Make sure you subscribe before you leave for tons more tech reviews and videos just like this one. Maybe some more photography stuff in the future. I'll leave that up to you guys. Until next time, Mark, over and out.